solely written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome. To our board meeting today, I'm Dale Lair, President of the 2022 Board of Directors. This regular meeting of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Board of Directors is audio and video recorded by RCSC management and staff. Please be advised that there will be no recording of this meeting by any individual. If you would be so kind as to take your phone and electronic devices out, put them on the silent mode, I would appreciate that. And I'll try to remind you at the end of the meeting to turn it back on. I would now like to introduce our timekeeper, parliamentarian, and management personnel. Our timekeeper, Tracy Bussabarger. Did I get it right yet? Bussabarger. Give me another couple months. Parliamentarian, Ray Tronecki. Management personnel, Bill Cook, General Manager. Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance. Mike Weeprud, Director of Buildings and Infrastructure. Chris Herring, Director of Operations. Chris Liam, Lynham, Pro Shop Manager, and I thought that was an easy one. Jolynn Higgins, Communication and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. Marcia Johnson, our Corporate Secretary and Coordinator. Teresa Serino, Director of Events and Entertainment, also in the upstairs booth. And I would also like to welcome Mike Diermeyer, Director of Bowling. Thank you. Also, it's the end of May and we have a nice crowd, so welcome to all of you as well. First order of business is a roll call of the voting members by Secretary Lanevsky and quorum confirmation. Secretary Lanevsky.
President Lair.
Here.
Vice President Agee.
Here. Good morning.
Treasurer Akins.
Good morning.
I'm here. Secretary Lanevsky. Director Collins. Director Fimmel.
Good morning.
Director McAdam.
Good morning.
Director Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Director Wilson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The minutes of the April 28th, 2022 meeting were posted for the director's review. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? I would like to make a comment regarding the minutes. On page 2 at the bottom of the page is a motion brought forward by the Long Range Planning Committee. This motion did not include the phrase "to be considered for the 2023 budget." As the chair, I should have identified this omission. A standing committee should make recommendations to the board, but they don't get a pass on the budget process. This board does not want to inadvertently set a precedence with unintended consequences moving forward. So, my apologies. There being no corrections or additions to the minutes of April 28th, the meeting minutes are approved. Thank you. Treasury's report. I would like to ask if there are any questions on the Treasury's report. Director McAdam.
Yes, this is just a reminder that we have been asking to have a clear line in our balance sheet for the carry forward amount. And I understand from Kevin that he's certainly prepared to do that. Originally agreed to do it on a quarterly basis. It just didn't happen in March. So it's a reminder that we would like to have that done. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, additions? Since There are none. The treasurer's report will be filed for audit. Management report. Are there any questions or comments on the management report? Director McAdam.
So on page 2, under building and infrastructure projects, I just have a little question about the Mountain View Rec Center Phases 1 and 2 PIF. The second bullet point says that CCBG resubmitted their design proposal with reduced cost at the request of RCSC. So that's my first question. I have a second question as well, but are there any further details about that?
Good morning, Madam President, Board of Directors, Director McAdam. We have the proposal. We've asked that the CCBG convert the proposal into a AIA form of contract, and we haven't got that back from them yet. So when we do, we will move that forward in to the bid commission for approval.
Okay, could you explain to us what an AIA contract is?
It's the architect, American Association Architects, whatever the acronym is. It's a standard industry-wide recognized format for different scenarios in construction and architecture. So what we're going to be using in this instance is what they call B-133 contract, which is an agreement between the architect and the owner, where the owner is using a construction manager at risk, which we briefed you guys about last week. So I don't have that contract. I mean, they don't change much from the template, though. You can get the template of any of these contracts on the AIA website. So.
Okay, so my second question would be, does that AIA B-133 contract, I think you
Yes.
said it is?
Yes.
Does that include any kind of a stop work clause?
Yeah, you can get out of the contract at points in time. The owner can declare the project over. You would progress pay them, but you wouldn't be obligated for the entire amount. It's just kind of as they bill it, they bill on a monthly basis to the scope of the contract. But if you cancel it 3 months in, then you're not obligated to pay the entire sum.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? There being none, the management report is accepted. Thank you, General Manager Cook. Committee reports. The first motion is a recommend.
I had 5 people sign up to speak on that,
Okay,
and they cannot speak on committee reports,
okay,
just so you're aware.
okay, thank you. The first motion is a recommendation from the Lawn Bowling Committee. As chair, I find that this motion is out of order per Robert's Rules 39.5. This motion is in violation of Bylaws Article 10, Section 1G, Standing Committees, because this motion exceeds the purpose of said committee. As to the intent, I would like to reiterate what I have said at 2 member board exchanges, in that any clubs that are going to be impacted in any way at Mountain View should start planning now. And I am more than happy to meet with the club president or their club board to discuss and answer any questions for them. So, yes, go ahead. General Manager Cook.
Madam President, Board Director, so if I could add to that, actually, I just had a good discussion with a member of the water volleyball club, and he was asking questions with respect to how do I submit our request for the pool and such. And so my answer is that as we go into the detailed design with CCBG, and as we collect, and as we get the general contractor in line, and then they get the subs in line, as we get those subs, what I would envision is then we would have the clubs specific to whatever that sub. So if it's the pool or the Performing Arts Center, we would meet individually with those activities to get their inputs. So what I didn't want them to do is start coming to me or to you or to the board and saying this is what we want, and then have to do it again. So that's kind of how I would envision the process. And we could do, like we're going to do this afternoon with Viewpoint Lake, is we could have a Q&A session, or we could have individual sessions with just the officers, however we see fit. But so the process, that would not be probably, I would think, for at least 6 months before we have subs chosen for this for the process. So.
But the club should start working on some of those things right now.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. So,
And I think my meeting with them would have been just that.
Yes,
Start,
yeah.
Start working on it.
Okay, all
So,
right.
thank you.
Yep.
That's good insight. All right. Moving on. The next item of business is the second reading of the motion on behalf of the Bowling Committee. Director Wilson, Chair of the Bowling Committee.
On behalf of the Bowling Committee, I recommend that the remodeling of the restrooms behind lanes 3 and 4 at the Lakeview Bowling Center be considered in the 2023 budgeting process.
I'll second.
Okay. Director Johnson?
It's okay.
It's okay. She's been promoted. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of the people who have signed up to speak to this motion.
No one signed up, President Wilson.
President Lair.
I thought that was intentional.
I want to know what they had in their coffee this morning. I want something.
All right. Resume quorum here. The motion before you on behalf of the Bowling Committee is a recommendation that the remodeling of restrooms behind lanes 3 and 4 at the Lakeview Bowling Center be considered in the 2023 budgeting process. Director Wilson, as maker of this motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of its adoption?
I don't believe I have any more to say on it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes, President
Director Akins?
Blair. I know some people have a question about why they want the bathrooms done, and they're probably wondering why they are going to get to do this, because I'm considered, it's been an issue for a few years now, and I'm really concerned that the smell that's in that bathroom, we don't know where it's coming from. I think we need to get in there, get the bathroom fixed, and before it becomes a health hazard.
Director Nowakowski?
I don't have a problem with remodeling the bathrooms in any facility, but this one here is kind of circumventing a budget process because I don't think there's a paid staff member who would not put that into the budget after the board says put it in the budget. That's a personal opinion. And that one, the previous motion on the bowling committee said that, we're influencing other people with that motion from the lawn bowling committee. We influence other people with this one by doing the bathrooms. We impact not only the bowling committee, but the bowlers that are not part of that committee. We affect the restaurant. We affect other things. So when we kind of say, this one here we agree with, so we're going to let it pass. This one we don't kind of agree with, so we're not going to let it pass. I have an objection to that.
Any other Director or Secretary Lenevsky?
I have a question for the general manager. The previous director has indicated that a passing of this motion would either inadvertently put pressure on the budgeting process. If that's the case, it affects my vote. If it doesn't, if it's just viewed as we're sending it up there, but there's no real pressure on you, that'll also affect my vote. How's this stuff viewed by you and the staff if we say, yes, go look at this?
Madam President, Director Lenevsky, it does not influence me in one bit. We go through the budget process and we objectively look at all of the submitted requests from all of the clubs, and we look at all of the individual business units in terms of what their needs are. and we do an objective analysis of that, and then we make a decision. And then that does get presented to the Budget and Finance Committee as well, so there is a secondary check with respect to what we present. So there is a check and balance with respect to the Budget and Finance Committee. If they feel that we are in any way influenced by any type of outside agent, then there is that check and balance as well. So I would say that I would not, this would not be an automatic, in my opinion.
Okay, let me follow-up question. Is this motion, as it's stated, asking you to consider it, going to create any problems at all for the staff? In other words, if it is, then I'm with Director Nowakowski. If it's not, I don't mind passing on a recommendation that a committee makes, but I do not want to screw up the budget process.
So Director Linevsky, yes. So I will be honest with you, I would rather not have budget requests be suggested through this process, because then I believe that this will become a vessel for those types of requests. And I just feel it should go through the normal budget process, which is the submission to our Director of Operations, to our Director of Finance, to all of our senior management, and then we make that decision. So I would rather not, but again, I don't believe we're influenced by it.
Okay, let me ask a follow-up question. So let's say the bowling committee or the long-range planning committee, which had a different type of motion that's been addressed already by the president, but let's say the bowling committee or the long-range, any of these committees want a budget thing, and they want you to consider it, and the board decides as a matter of policy to not do that. How do they make sure that they're considered? Can they write a letter to you? I mean, what is the process for them so that they make sure that what they want is known?
So we recently just had a submission from the car club, and what happens is it really should go through our Director of Operations is typically who is the kind of the gatekeeper for all of the club's requests, since clubs flows through the Director of Operations. So we'll go through the club office and then through the Director of Operations, and then then finalized through our Director of Finance, Mr. McCurdy.
So they would send you a letter saying this is what we want and why they want it, and it would be considered.
Right, and then then it's a negotiation process to go back and forth and tell us what the business case is for it, or what the true reason for what that request is being asked for, and then we kind of measure that against, is it a safety issue? Is it, something that, a particular club may not have had anything given to them in the last 10 years. So we take a look at, when the last request was granted for each of the clubs. So there's a criteria list that we go through to make our decision.
Thank you. Your answers affected my vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to say again that this motion has the phrase to be considered in the 2023 budgeting process. This is exactly why I made the statement about the last motion from the Long Range Planning Committee that was not correct in its wording, and we don't want to make that as a precedence because there would be unintended consequences. So just a reiteration of that. President Wilson, or I mean,
Director.
I give up.
I would just like to point out that this is not a club.
Yeah.
This is a standing committee. There is no club involved here.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question.
Secretary Linevsky.
General Manager, since I use the word club, does the fact that it comes from a committee change any of your views?
No, it does not.
Thank you.
Lefty.
Madam President, I have some questions.
Director Fimmel.
Mr. Cook, you submit that the process should be that committees and clubs would send something to you in writing, making their request, and based on certain standards, you would review that request. So, two questions, actually. Will committee request or do committee request have a higher standing in this schema over clubs? And the second question is, what if a club submits a request and does not hear for an extended period of time? You talked about a negotiated give and take, but what if the club is never even contacted about their request?
So the first question is, in my opinion, there is no distinction between a committee or a club. I look at this as an RCSC organization. So as a general manager, I have to look at it from, the best interest of all of our membership. So we take a look at how many people this affects. So committee, obviously, golf and bowling are going to affect a lot more people. So from that perspective, it may have a higher weighting because of the effect of the number of members. Your second question with respect to not hearing back, so I can maybe defer to our director of operations, but typically I would assume that we would, if somebody sends a request in, we would let them know that it has not been accepted. And so that should be the process. So if they have not heard, that was just an oversight on our part.
Director McAdam.
Yeah, so I appreciate all the comments of the previous directors here, and I concur with the concerns that have been expressed about this. But I also have a further concern that I would like to voice here, and that is simply the matter of consistency in terms of recommendations that are coming from board standing committees. So the Lawn Bowl Committee recommendation wasn't even open for discussion because the board president simply declared it to be out of order, whereas this one has received a rather robust discussion about it. And one of my real concerns about that is that in just looking at the attendance summary that we received for Q1 for the 123 clubs, the participation, the number of individual registrations that took place, there were only 2 clubs among those 123 that actually broke the attendance mark of 7,500. And those were...
Director McAdam, this motion on the floor is really about the procedure regarding this motion.
I understand that.
And not about merits.
I understand that, but I believe that this is embedded in the discussion about comparing two like motions. So while I am speaking to the question about this motion, I'm also simply addressing the fact that the first motion was not granted a similar discussion.
Director McAdam.
Mistake.
Director McAdam, that motion was it didn't follow, the standing committee has a purpose, and it's stated in our bylaws. That motion did not address what the purpose of the committee is. So it's out of order. And it's not on the merits. It was just not written correctly. And I did reach out to you. I reached out to John. I said there was a problem with this motion. I thought it would be a good idea to pull it, but you didn't. So it's like, here we are. But you're comparing apples to oranges. It's, that discussion, let's just stick to the motion on the floor, okay?
Well, I would just ask to be a matter of public record that I respectfully disagree with you, and I don't agree with the process of a single person determining that a motion is unacceptable without allowing...
You're out of order? Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay. I'm so befuddled here. And there is no one wishing to speak to this, so Director or Secretary Leneski, would you please take the roll call vote?
Certainly. On all the roll call votes, I'm going to not call Director Collins' name since he's not here. Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
I'm sorry, just clarification. We're voting on the bowling
Correct.
motion. Is that correct?
That's the motion on the floor.
My answer is no.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Iggy.
Yes.
Director Mikowski.
No.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote no. President Lear.
Yes.
It's 5-3 for it.
Okay. 5-3?
5 to 4.
No,
No,
5-3.
5-3.
Director Collins is not.
Okay.
It passes.
Yes, with 5 in favor and 3 opposed, the motion is adopted. All right. The next item of business is the second reading of a motion on behalf of the Club Organization Committee, COC, to amend Board Policy 12, titled Chartered Clubs, Section 8. Director Wilson, Chair of the COC Committee.
On behalf of the COC Committee, I move to amend Board Policy Number 12, titled Charter Clubs, Section 8, titled Club Records and Reports as follows, adding in club login credentials for 990 filing must be provided to the club's office.
Thank you. Because this is second reading, we don't need a second. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of the members who wish to speak on this.
Okay, Bill Pearson signed up. Is it for this one or the one under new business? Because there's 2 of them for. Okay.
Okay.
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Okay, thank you. Director Wilson, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak in favor of its adoption?
I would just like to say that this is just because of the fact that there have been some clubs that have had difficulty getting that information when a new treasurer comes in. The safeguard is if it's in a sealed envelope with the club's name on it, it would only be opened if needed.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Oh, Director Nowakowski.
Quick question. The 990s, what we're saying is those will not be looked at unless they need to be by the COC committee. Is that is my understanding?
No, not by the COC committee at all. By the club office and the new treasurer of that club.
So I'm confused now, which happens quite often.
Join the club.
We are going to get a login credentials. We're going to keep them, but the only one that can look at them is the club treasurer. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on who you're talking we.
We as the RCSC.
The club's office would have this.
Okay.
And they would store it in their safe. They would only open that with the new treasurer if needed.
So it's not, the RCSC is completely out of it at that point in time.
I don't understand.
I'm
I
not
don't understand
exactly
the
sure what
question.
you mean by out of it. But
Well, the club will take this, it will be held by the club. So I don't understand what we're trying to accomplish.
trying to accomplish the fact that it would simplify, right now what happens is they have to go back in and refile and try to get a new password, get a new account, everything for a club if the treasurer does not turn this over. This would simply simplify the process because they could then open that envelope and have those credentials so they could get in and continue their club business
At the club.
at the club.
Okay.
Very good. Any other discussion? The motion before you on behalf of the COC committee is the recommendation to amend Board Policy 12, Section 8. Secretary Lineski, would you please take the roll call vote?
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agi.
Yeah, excuse me, yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes.
It passes 8-0.
With 8 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion is adopted. Okay, next item of business is the second reading of a motion on behalf of the Insurance Committee and the RCSC's recommendation to approve the 2022-2023 insurance renewal proposal. Director Wilson.
I move based on the Insurance Committee's and RCSC's recommendations to approve the 2022-2023 insurance renewal proposal for the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. The renewal proposal includes the same insurance coverages, carriers, and terms and conditions per RCSC's expiring coverage with an increase of 14.5%.
Ms. Johnson, are there any members who wish to speak to this motion?
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Okay. Director Wilson, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak in favor of its
I have
adoption?
nothing more to say on it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion from the board? Nothing? The motion before you on behalf of the Insurance Committee and the RCSC's recommendation is to approve the 2022-2023 insurance renewal proposal for the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Secretary Leneski, would you please take the roll call vote?
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Ege.
Yes.
Director Noakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes.
8-0, it passes.
With 8 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion is adopted. Next item of business is the second reading of a motion on behalf of the Insurance Committee and RCSC's brokers to recommend that RCSC decline terrorism risk insurance. Director Wilson.
I move based on the Insurance Committee's and RCSC's insurance brokers' recommendation that RCSC decline terrorism risk insurance. The terrorism-related coverage is optional for commercial property and casualty coverages except workman's compensation. Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, known as TRIA, was initially created by the federal government after the 9/11/2001 attack on American soil. The act allows the federal government to share monetary losses with insurers on commercial property and casualty losses due to a terrorist attack sponsored by foreign interest. For TRIA coverage to apply, a terrorist event would have to be declared by the Secretary of State, which has not happened in the United States since this act was passed by Congress in 2002. RCSC has rejected TRIA on applicable coverages during the past several years.
Ms. Johnson, are there any individuals, members that would like to speak?
Madam President, no one signed up to speak.
Director Wilson, as adopted?
I think it's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear. Okay, any discussion? The motion before you, on behalf of the Insurance Committee and RCSC's insurance brokers' recommendation is to decline terrorist risk insurance. Secretary Lenevsky.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Ege.
Yes.
Director Noakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes, with
So
8 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion passes. Is adopted. Okay, next item of business is a motion to amend bylaws, Article 5, titled Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board. Vice President Ege.
Madam President, I move to amend bylaws Article 5 titled Board of Directors, Section 5 titled Meetings of the Board as follows. And essentially, it's just a reordering of the words member and board to read member/board exchanges.
All right. Ms. Johnson, are there any members who wish to speak to this motion?
Jean Totten.
Good morning. Jean Totten, number 148753. I personally would like to thank Vice President Ege and fellow board members for listening to the members' request and changing the name. It's a very simple exchange of 2 words, but to me and many others, it signified the start of the board's willingness to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Ege, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak to it?
No, I think all's been said, and I echo Ms. Totten's comment. Thank
Okay.
you.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, the motion before you is to amend bylaws, Article 5, titled Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board. Secretary Lenevsky, would you please take the vote?
Director Noakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Ege.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes. With 8 votes in favor and 0 opposed, the motion is adopted. The next item of business is a request to approve the decharter of the Cornhole Club based on noncompliance with Board Policy 12 in completing the establishment of the club. I'm going to ask for a motion regarding the consent agenda item.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I second.
moved by Director Wilson and seconded by Vice President Eggy. Is there any discussion? Director Wilson.
I would just like to ask Mr. Herring if there was any information on that we needed to know? Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Secretary Lanevsky, please take the roll call vote.
Vice President Agee.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes?
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes, President Blair.
Yes. 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is adopted.
I'll put President Blair. I'm not sure, could we waive the second reading of this?
I don't think
Yeah,
you
it's a
need,
consent. You don't have to have a second reading.
I don't think you have
Because
a
we just
second.
made the motion, so
But on
there won't have to be a second
consent
reading?
It's a consent agenda. You don't need to have a second reading on a consent. Okay.
Just checking.
Yep, thank you. All right. Ms. Johnson, are there any card holders who have signed up to speak on new business items?
Bill Pearson.
Bill Pearson, 133438. Apologize for staying way in the back, but it's close to the coffee and it keeps me calm. Can I ask a question about something you did today? Or do I have to wait until I do want to speak to the motion, but I didn't understand your comments relative to the long-range planning committee motion in the minutes. Can you explain that, or did you want to wait till the member board exchange?
I'll talk to you after the meeting, or you can bring it up at the board member exchange.
Okay, I'll see you afterwards. I don't know what you said.
A member board exchange. Oh, God, it's going to take me forever.
I speak in favor of the motion. I actually sat here last meeting stunned on the motion to secure envelopes and stuff that you just approved. As the chairman of the COC committee and as a former board member, and as a person who's watched clubs very closely over the last 20 years I've been here, it just shocked me. Helen Teichman, who recently died, had given $750,000 to the lawn bowling clubs, which ultimately became property of the RCSC. Mm-hmm. Every club member, every club officer doesn't own anything. When they leave, those records should be given back to the club. They belong to the club, which in turn belongs to the RCSC, theoretically. And so the idea that we have to seal an envelope with information seems crazy, because ultimately you have control over that person, that financial officer that walked out. Simply telling people that when they're serving as officers, when they leave, it should all belong and be returned to the club is just the way it should be. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Everyone who signed up has spoken.
Okay. Well, since Director Collins isn't here, he's the maker of the motion, but this is in regards to the COC. I'm going to defer to Director Wilson.
At this time, because this has not gone through the COC committee at all, or me, I would like to pull this motion.
Okay, so,
Madam Chair?
well, let me just go back and just say, if we're going to go do this, the first item of new business is motion to amend Board Policy 12, titled Charter Clubs, Section 8, titled Club Records and Reports. Okay, so the chair of the COC is requested to pull the motion. I'll take a comment. Go ahead.
I don't understand why we're pulling a motion made by a director. A director has the, as I understand it, the ability to bring forth an idea or emotion just because somebody else disagree with it, with the concept or the idea. It should be looked upon as the entire board deciding that and not a chairman of a certain committee. So I have an objection to that being pulled.
Okay. Well, the maker of the motion isn't here.
I'll be more
So
than happy
I was,
to, I'll be more than happy to make the motion.
You know, it's regarding COC. I'm deferring to the director or the chair of the COC committee who's made, she wants to pull it. So that motion is off. We can bring it up at the next meeting.
I believe it needs to go through the COC committee, and they have not talked about this at all.
This did not go through the COC committee.
It did not go through the COC committee.
Madam President, are we suggesting if this went through the COC committee, that that committee has the ability to decide whether or not a motion is heard that's been made by a director? I think I may be as confused as Mr. Nowakowski. That just, are we setting a precedent where committees can now decide whether or not directors can make motions?
Okay, no, we're not setting a precedent. The maker of the motion is not here. I deferred to the, he's the co-chair of the committee. This motion regarding, you know, Board Policy 12, which is chartered clubs, everything regarding chartered clubs should go through the COC committee. Director Collins is the co-chair of the COC committee. But I'm hearing from the chair of the COC that nothing went through the committee itself. So we can't have a motion on chartered clubs that just went through a director that didn't go through the committee. The committee needs to act on it. It's a standing committee recommendation. It should be. Secretary Lanevsky.
Madam President, if the motion is made on behalf of the committee, I would agree with you. On the other hand, I think a director has the right to at least make a motion. I don't care about how the process is done. If Director Collins has the right to rebring this motion next month, I think that's what should be done because he's not here because of circumstances. But I think the director has the right to make a motion. We can certainly vote it down. So I don't think any motion regarding what a committee has jurisdiction on should have to go through the committee. We as a board were elected, and I think we as a board members have a right to make a motion. The president can rule it out of order. So as a matter of precedent, I guess I'm coming down more on the side of Director Nowakowski on this issue, but I understand it's pulled.
Okay. There's been discussion and emails between the chair and the co-chair, as well as myself, regarding this motion. My ruling is to defer to the chair of the committee, and as that, she has requested that the motion be pulled for this meeting. Moving on. Okay. Our next meeting member board exchange is June 13th at 9 a.m. at Sundial. The next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on June 30th, 2022 at 9 a.m. at the Sundial Auditorium. Are there any?
Is it June 30th? Okay. Sorry.
Are there any other announcements? Yes.
From the election committee, I'd just like to announce that the board packets will be available June 6th in the corporate office. In order to qualify, in order to be a board candidate, you must be at least 55 years of age, must not reside with or be related by marriage or birth to any other member of the board, senior management staff, or the board candidate. must be a deeded real estate owner of property in Sun City, Maricopa County, Arizona, must be an RCSC member in good standing, must reside in Sun City, Arizona, and be available at least 10 months of the year, must meet the requirements to hold an Arizona liquor license, must be eligible and available to serve a 3-year term, and must be available to attend, actually it is, you must attend the board candidate orientation. The board of directors cannot serve on any board of a charter club or a green committee or golf association. So that is available starting June 6th.
So if anybody is interested, you can call the club
corporate office,
and
there's a sheet on the back table about it.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
President Lair?
Director Akins.
When I went to the Roads and Safety Committee meeting the other day, they were emphasizing, they talked a lot about scams. And I guess here in Sun City, we're getting hit with a lot of scams. Everybody knows there are people out there that are trying to scam, and they think we're a very vulnerable community. The romance scams are on the increase. So they're pleading with everybody to please, please do not give out any personal information over the phone or to somebody you don't know, because more than likely it is a scam. So they're trying to please, anytime something does not sound right to you, immediately cut off the conversation and contact a member of your family or contact somebody in authority. Thank you.
Any other directors want to speak? Yes, Director Nowakowski.
At the request of Director Collins, there is a zoning issue that's been brought out. And if you need some information about the county zoning issue, that's been very brought out throughout the community, please see me after the meeting. I can give you the information that I have. I don't have a lot, but I have a little more information that we can share with the public.
And is that a liaison?
No, it's the county liaison who is doing the zoning request.
Oh, okay. No problem.
His direct email address.
Okay. Any other updates, committee reports, liaisons? Karen, do you have something to present on SHOA? I'm going to ask, there was an email alert that went out, from SHOA regarding age overlay, and it's, it was kind of an emergency email that went out. We do have someone from the SHOA's office, a board member. Would you mind coming up and explaining the situation and what members should be doing right now about this?
Well, Mike Wendell, 145-206. Just give it just for the sake of whatever.
But you're from SHOA, so that's okay.
But I'm a board member of SHOA right now. SHOA takes compliance very seriously. That's the one thing that we do go about, trying to enforce compliance with the CC&Rs. There was a notice posted, and it's something that falls under, I think it's whether it's Arizona or federal statutes, you're allowed to have up to 20% that are underage living in a community. And the question is, how does that apply to us? And we've apparently had conversations with the thing, but there's a law involved. It's a federal law, I believe. And so there's someone that's formally requested to allow an exemption for an underage situation of a family living within Sun City. It's complicated. It's something that I can't speak to directly, but it is being addressed. We are contesting that. SHOA is going to contest it. We're going to show up at the hearing for this. SHOA always stands by this kind of thing and takes it very seriously. What people can do, if you want information and you believe there's something to it, you should contact SHOA and their compliance department. They know more what they can tell you. I can't really get into details that I may be privileged to, but the fact is there is a serious situation going on. And it's more complex than you think because we're not a government agency. We don't have a standing to go in and enforce things. We're required to, in many cases, the final education of a situation is you go to court. You can put liens on, you can fine people, you can do things. That doesn't necessarily correct a problem. It just means somebody's going to pay, and maybe it's going to come back through a lien when the property finally gets sold. Going through the legal channels becomes very complex, becomes very costly, and it becomes a situation where you got to talk to the compliance department. More people, getting more people on record that stand by this is wrong will always help a situation. But the thing to do is, that is a SHOA issue with compliance. Please contact the SHOA office.
Thanks, Mike.
If you have it, and support it.
Thank you.
What we're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, the email blast that I got said, that this is a serious complaint. It's been a problem for a while, and they are looking for members to get involved. I would strongly suggest you call the SHOA office, or you can write a written complaint about the age restriction. They have an email here. It's apps.pnd.maricopa.gov/contact. And when writing a complaint or a concern regarding age restriction, this case is TU 2022-020. So I will have this in the back of the room if anybody's interested. I thought it was important and should be brought up. All right, is there no further business? And without objection, this meeting will be adjourned. Please don't forget to turn your phones back on. Very good. Thank you.
Copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.